All right. So Union Mission has been around for 106 years. It has been ministering to hurting people in the name of Jesus for a long time. Our goal with this sustainable agriculture program is to obviously produce nutrient dense, high quality food for those folks that are in our rehab programs, for those folks who are in our homeless shelters, for those folks who are coming by our family services office who are in need of food. We also want to take some time and teach those around us in our community about sustainable agriculture and the skills that are involved in that. It's very exciting to be a part of this. It's really kind of cutting edge for Union Mission, and we are really excited about the future of our Union Mission Sustainable Agriculture program. So why must Union Mission develop this agriculture program now? There's many different reasons. We have had relationships with local grocers for many years, and we are finding that the amount of food that they are able to donate is on a fast decline. There's many reasons for that. The local economy obviously is forcing them to be more sharp on what they're ordering. So there's not as much left over. There are many more 501c3 corporations who are involved in feeding folks, and they too are building relationships with these local grocers. We are forced to, because the amount of people who are in need, we are forced to buy more food than in the past. So we really need to be able to counterbalance our spending when it comes to buying food, especially during the holiday season. Food quality is a great concern of mine. That really is what kind of sparked this with me. As I started this past April, I would notice the amount of food and also the quality of the food that would come into our warehouse. And not that we aren't thankful for what is coming in, but sometimes it's just the food that we are handing out is not quite as nutrient dense as we would like it to be. And of course, we know sustainable ag is trending. It's exciting now. It's out there in a lot of different groups, and it actually opens up a bigger door for us to minister to a completely different group of folks. So many different reasons why we have got to get involved in this sustainable agriculture program now.
So, of course, the question that it's on many lips as we talk to people about this is what is sustainable agriculture? Obviously, that's kind of a broad term, and sometimes that gets kicked around indiscriminately and is not really well defined. But we look at sustainable agriculture as something that is just that, it's sustainable. It's something that can be done over and over again without a lot of heavy inputs. So if we look at that, they can say, well, that's kind of small scale farming, but there are large farms, there's large corporations, I hate to use the word corporation, there's large entities that are doing sustainable farming, sustainable agriculture on a large scale, but they incorporate certain practices that require less overhead, less inputs. They're utilizing organic or land-friendly practices. It's an agricultural model that builds and sustains ecosystems. And it's really a philosophy on agricultural practices. What are you doing to kind of build earth, build soil quality, maintain the ecosystem while yet still producing a quality product? So when we look at sustainable agriculture, we think of some recognizable terms that I'm sure all of us are familiar with. The organic, pasture-raised, permaculture, non-GMO, of course, is really in vogue right now. Some people don't even know what GMO is, but they know they don't want it. So looking at those type of things, antibiotics in your food, holistic farming, regenerative farming practices, there's a lot of key terms out there that people are using. And this is a very broad area for agriculture. And we're not necessarily going to focus in one area. We're really just seeing as this comes together, where we see our skill sets, where volunteers, people that are interested like you all participating in this right now, say, hey, this is what we can bring to the table. So that's where we're leaving this kind of open right now to figure out which direction we would go. So how do we see Union Mission Sustainable Agriculture Program? Well, if we would use a wagon wheel for well-intended pun here, we would see that there's kind of 6 areas that we think Union Mission Sustainable Agriculture Program would focus on. And we're going to go through those briefly here to kind of explain each of those.
So the food supply for programs is a must. Our foundations, for those of you that may not know, our foundations and our cornerstone programs is our men's and women's rehab center. And we certainly need high quality, nutrient dense food to feed these folks. It's a well-known fact that as people are fighting addiction, it helps in that battle. It helps in that fight if you can keep their body healthy. And we do that with this high quality food. Family Services is also a branch of Union Mission, and we have 3 family service officers working currently, and they see up to 20 folks a day coming through that need fed, that need, their families need food. They've experienced hardship of some kind, and they're coming through Family Services looking for help. And we certainly can, we want to be able to offer these folks good protein, good vegetables to these families. Currently, we are working in our holiday food baskets. In the last 3 weeks, we have been collecting food very aggressively. And now, starting Saturday, we will begin to distribute that food. And we really want to be able to do quality food in our holiday food baskets. I want to be able to say to our families of West Virginia that we care about you enough. Number one, Jesus Christ wants us to do the best we can. He wants us to do all things decently in order. And also, I want to take care of I think God would have us to take care of our folks of West Virginia with the proper types of food, especially during the holiday season. Yeah, I as far as our spending during this time of year for our holiday food, I would blow your mind if I would tell you the amount of money that is spent on feeding the folks during the holiday season. So I really want to change that in being able to produce our own food, our own quality food, because that would help our bottom line tremendously during the holiday season.
Yeah, I think as you've pointed out in the past, Jason, that when we look at food donations being down, it doesn't mean we give out less food at Union Mission. It means that we have to buy more food to give out. So it's kind of a double whammy. We're not getting the donation, and it's also taking needed capital from other areas to provide that same food. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. We in the off season, when I say the off season, I mean even the summer months. We're looking at feeding somewhere around 35 to 40,000 people a month. That's a lot of folks. And then once we get into the winter months, especially the holiday season, you're ramping up to 65, 70,000 folks a month. And that is a lot of food. And we really need that counterbalance or help with this, with our sustainable ag program.
Well, so the second spoke on our wagon wheel is our revenue goals. Of course, we look and say, well, if we can grow this quality food and we can obviously feed it to our constituents, people in the programs, offering people food from our family services and our food baskets, we also need to look at the opportunity to maybe sell some of this. So if there's a balance there of food that is grown and consumed within Union Mission, but then there's also an opportunity to sell some of this to the Greater Kanawha Valley and take that money and reinvest it into expanding this program and maybe even helping fund some other programs. So we want to look at that balance. We want to look at that opportunity and say, hey, we did really well this year with XYZ product. Let's look at selling some of that extra so it can produce revenue to help fund this. If we were strictly doing agriculture program and it just going to food that's going to be consumed within Union Mission's walls, then obviously that has a pretty high expense element to it. And so we need to look at ways that we could put things in place to generate some revenue there to be able to supplement the cost associated with that. So again, looking to help support agriculture efforts and expansion in other areas, help other programs, of course, and services that Union Mission offers that don't have any way of producing their own revenue. So we may need to move funds in that direction to help other areas. And of course, provide an income source for men and women involved in the ag program. So as these men and women come through the program, maybe there's a small stipend, maybe there's a daily per diem that can come from that as they're learning these skills, as they're appreciating that.
So the men and women in our addiction recovery programs, another side of this, or another goal, is to get them involved in the daily work and the process of building and taking care of our program, our sustainable ag program. It's a great experience for these men and women to get involved in this. Something that Troy and I have talked about on many occasions is teaching this to men and women who are going through our addiction recovery programs. And then once they graduate, the possibilities for them is tremendous. I mean, they could go anywhere in the world really and build or get involved in growing their own food. And it's really kind of what I love what Troy says, like it's about teaching men and women to fish, just not feeding them. So that's what we're getting involved in. Our work program participants will be limited and based upon behavior. We're looking to fill some spots from our rehab men and women, and we're really wanting to use this as an opportunity for them, something for them to look forward to, something for them to want to do. So it's kind of on a behavior base, to where, if they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, if they're getting their studies and getting their life skill studies taken care of, and getting the things done that they're supposed to be doing, we offer this program for them to get involved in as well. Yeah, we absolutely, because of our budget, our yearly budget at Union Mission, we don't have 10 or 15 staff members set aside, or I don't have 10 or 15 staff members set aside that can work directly with this sustainable ag program. So we really are looking to use the manpower of our rehab programs to get involved in the maintenance of our agriculture program. Without a doubt, I think everybody should spend some time on a farm. I think it teaches great work ethic. I think it gives you really the work ethic that you need to move on in other things in your life. There's nothing wrong with grabbing a shovel or a hoe or something and getting some work done. And there's nothing wrong with a really good, hard day's work. And we're looking forward to that with our men and women in our program.
So the first three spokes, we kind of look at that as our primary goals, the revenue, the food, and the work program. The other three spokes maybe are secondary, but we see they have some value to this program if it takes off and does what we'd like it to do. So the fourth spoke is community building. So as we work in this area of agriculture, as we grow, for pardon the pun there, in these elements, we see this opportunity to establish new relationships with potential donors and business partners. Again, we've not done agriculture before, but as we start this program and grow this program, then there may be businesses that say, hey, we have elements, our products and services fit into that area. We can now partnership with Union Mission, and it makes sense. So we're looking at that opportunity to reach out to the community, build stronger community relationships with businesses and entities.
Yeah, Troy, a few months ago, Troy and I spoke at a Bible Center, maybe not a few months ago, but maybe a month ago. We spoke at Bible Center just for a few moments, and somebody in the audience listened to us and called their brother-in-law down in Florida, who owns an agriculture business down there, and then he called us and wants to be involved in what we're doing here in West Virginia. It's already branching out, and that is what's so exciting about this program. People are really wanting to get behind us and get involved in this. Absolutely.
So we'll look to it. With the community building, we can reach a new generation with our regenerative farming efforts. It's no secret when it comes to nonprofit entities, especially faith-based entities, we're kind of missing the newer generation. Now, as we mentioned before, as Jason mentioned, that sustainable ag is in vogue. It's trending right now. So this is a way to reach a new generation, millennial generation, to say, hey, I'm not sure I understand what Union Mission's all about. I know they've been around for a long time, but I see they're trying to do this regenerative farming, the sustainable agriculture thing. I think I can get behind that. So we're looking at, this could have the potential of reaching a new generation that we haven't had the ability to reach before. And also in that same vein, looking at more, reaching a broader audience. Again, we are a faith-based nonprofit. We don't apologize for that. Jesus, glorifying God, comes first. But we see that even people that aren't believers can say, well, I don't know that I understand exactly what Union Mission's doing there with the faith stuff, but I can get behind the sustainable agriculture element because it is eco-friendly, it is soil building, it is regenerative. So it could be an opportunity to not only work with people beyond our traditional faith-based audience, but it could also be an opportunity to be a witness as we partner with these people and say, hey, Union Mission, the faith-based organization, we have a lot in common. I didn't think we did, but we have a lot in common. And in today where our culture is so divisive and we want to put people in these little groups, I think it would help bridge some of these gaps and reach these audiences of people and be able to strike up new relationships that we maybe not had before. And again, obviously, as Jason mentioned, it's already coming to fruition. Just discussing this, other farmers, other organizations are stepping forward and say, hey, we want to help. We're doing some element on our piece of land, or we've done this before. We want to share our experiences and help out.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the education and training aspect of this, the program participants can learn employable skills in agriculture and really take care of themselves anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world for that matter, once they graduate and get out into the world. Local residents can participate in educational opportunities. We can have people from all over the state. We're actually even looking at universities maybe joining in and helping. But we can look at folks coming in from all over the state and getting involved. And even people are okay with paying to get involved in learning sustainable agriculture. Guest trainers can be invited to teach classes and training opportunities for residents and program participants. We are building relationships all over the state of West Virginia. We are building relationships kind of all over the East Coast in kind of a very short amount of time, and certainly looking forward to folks coming in and getting a part and partnering with us in this agriculture program. Certifications can be obtained and program members can become instructors or launch their own business. Again, these folks can go out and do this on their own once they graduate our program. And folks that come in and learn this who are not in our program, they can also launch out on their own business as well. And there are folks out there that are doing quite well in the sustainable ag. Troy, you know better than I do, folks that are really getting it done in this area as a lifestyle.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely careers that are being made in this specific area. And we mentioned there in our notes this PDC, which is a permaculture design certificate. And you can take that certificate and you can go anywhere in the world right now and help design permaculture structures, setups, and it is an opportunity. So as people come through the program, and maybe people that aren't even in the program that are just in the neighborhood, in the community, and want to be involved, we have those opportunities there as well. And our last spoke on our wagon wheel is agritourism. And believe it or not, as this program develops, we see if we're pioneering in an area, there's other missions that would possibly want to see our efforts if they're successful. So we'd like to allow people to come and see that and explore what we've done. For people interested in starting their own sustainable ag farms, we'll maybe want to tour what we're doing here. And believe it or not, it's in vogue for people to take these work vacations. We already have at Union Mission years and years of experience of groups of kids and adults coming from out of state to say, hey, we want to come to West Virginia and help Union Mission, almost like mini mission trips. So we see this as an opportunity to expand even that people can come in and work on our farm as a vacation or as a mission trip for their organization out of state. And again, as we mentioned, those mission trips. So just be focused in ag management area. It's great. We have these groups coming in and they help paint, they help clean up the buildings, they help do that. How great would it be just give them another option, say you can work inside, or hey, we need somebody to slop the hogs or pull weeds or do whatever. So that's kind of the core of what we're looking to do here. And obviously that's not boots on the ground yet. So the real question is looking at, well, where are we starting? What are our assets? And Jason's going to go over our assets there.
Yeah, so really the neat thing is, as we've already mentioned, is so many people are jumping on board already. And so many people are getting behind us and partnering with us here. And right now we have access to over 800 acres of land. Now, most of that land is not developed land at all. It's really quite raw. But there is over 800 acres of land that we can begin to work in some way, some form or fashion. We have previous experience with farm products already. We have people that bring us eggs, beef, pork, all kinds of vegetables every single year to feed to our folks already. We have farming experience with a lot of people who are engaged, and a lot of people who have been, such as Troy, who have been doing this for quite some time. We have a lot of hours that we have personally put in. I mean, I'm not even talking about what Troy has done on his own, but what he and I have put in together, researching other farms, visiting other farms. We went to Virginia a few months ago and spent quite a bit of time at Joel Salatin's place and had a great time down there. And he spent some time with us, and we toured his whole farm, and learned quite a bit. We have access to a lot of resources due to, quite frankly, the popularity of this sustainable ag program. There's governments, and we are already meeting with government officials about this in our state of West Virginia. There are foundations and there are organizations who are willing to write grants for situations like this, and our assets are there, although we are still we're still building those assets, but we are very excited about the way in which we are headed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think raw is the key word there.
Yeah.
But just like baking a cake, we got the raw ingredients. We just need to get the right people to help put the ingredients together and put together a good product. So, of course, with assets, we've got to look at our challenges. The biggest challenge is labor. If you look at sustainable ag compared to traditional conventional farming, the big difference is labor. Traditional or commercial farming, they've replaced labor with heavy-duty equipment, machinery, this autonomous combines that go out and pick, process hundreds and hundreds of acres of corn, and maybe one guy is sitting in them, or maybe they're completely autonomous now the way they're directed. So what we're talking about is we don't have the ability to invest in large equipment purchases, nor would we want to. We want to use that money to obviously help our programs. So we need labor. As Jason mentioned, we don't have a large staff at Union Mission of people that are like, hey, I'm ready to start the ag program. Let's go do this. So that labor is going to have to come from volunteers and also come from our program base. But it's really we're going to really rely on volunteers there to kind of to bear a lot of the process as we move forward. Also, lack of experience in implementing through a nonprofit. Obviously, this is our first time launching an agriculture program, and there's not a lot of missions out there like us that we can say, "Hey, let's emulate their model." We're really, again, pardon the pun, we're plowing new ground here, and so we don't have a lot of opportunity can't really Google it. We can't really look for it on YouTube. It's just a matter of, okay, this is what we're going to try to do and see how it goes. And as Jason mentioned, that 800 acres is not tillable. Some land will require improvements. And by improvements, we're talking about infrastructure. As we get further in this presentation, we'll talk about specifics. But there's some infrastructure that needs to be built. Now, again, we're not building $200,000 hog barns or anything like that. We're just looking at some basic infrastructure that we need to put in place. And, of course, the final challenge is, farming is hard work. I think there's no one that would argue that it's easy to do. The ground is cursed since Genesis 1. It's made things a little tricky since then. So what's it take to get this started? How do we get the tractor out of the barn? Well, we have a timeline. And October 19th, of course, we had our Sustainable Ag Launch event. And what you're seeing tonight is the same presentation from that. We wanted to, again, make this as available as possible to people that weren't able to make it that night. So that was a benchmark in our timeline. And now, going forward, we kind of have this next step, which is November and January. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's when the work really begins, and really where we need you guys that are listening. We need your help big time starting very soon. We've got a lot of things to gather and purchase. We've got equipment and supplies to obtain. We've got a lot of infrastructures such as chicken tractors and things of that nature, fenced in areas for hogs and other things. There's a lot of building that needs to go on to happen. There are continual cultivating of partnerships that we are doing. We can never get away from that, building relationships and partnerships throughout this whole thing. And we must build a communication between our team members, and that all begins and starts now. And of course, February is rapidly approaching, Troy.
Yes.
I can't believe we're already halfway through. I mean, next week is Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We're already halfway through November, and we're looking in February to begin the farming season. A lot of folks would probably ask, what in the world are you going to do in February, Troy? You want to let them know?
Well, yeah, it's planning. And again, most of us small scale farmers, we're already thinking about 2018 season and what we want to try to do. But the reason why we picked February 18th is we think that is a logical time. If we're going to go down the protein route, which we really want to do, pastured poultry, then that's the time of year when you're ordering your chickens to come in. So you order the chicks, they're mail ordered, believe it or not, they come in the mail, and we get them in and we put those in the brooders in February so we can have them out on pasture when warm weather hits. So and then a lot of planting in other areas. We've talked about maple syrup production. We have 200 acres over in Mill Creek that has a lot of sugar maple and red maple on it. So we thought, is there an opportunity to go over there in February and tap those trees and try our hand at maple syrup? So there's a lot of different elements that would really start February 2018. And we feel that's the benchmark we want to set. So what are our needs? Well, as we talked about, we feel that pastured poultry is definitely on the short list. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if we look at pastured poultry, we need infrastructure, and our goal is to do pastured poultry at South Park, which is a Union Mission property there in Canal City. You may be wondering, you're going to have chickens on South Park Road? No, behind Union Mission property, or actually behind our buildings, we have 275 acres?
257 acres.
257 acres. That a lot of it's vertical, but on top there's some clearings up there, and we've laid it out. We've done a feasibility study with the pasture poultry process, and we think we can get a pretty good setup up there. So what do we need? We need chicken tractors, and a chicken tractor is basically just a protection pen that is mobile. It doesn't have a floor in it, so the chicks and the chickens can eat all the green grass there, and then each day we just move that forward, so they're getting introduced to new fresh grass each day. And I'm going to show you a little video clip here in a second about that. So we need a brooder, obviously a place to keep the chicks until they get their feathers and they can be outside. Water supply up on top of that mountain. There's no city water up there. It's the top of the mountain. So rain catchment or water transport, we got to look at that. Believe it or not, there's a lot of predator issues. There's a lot of coyote pressure on that side of Canal City. So we have to make sure that's under control. And of course, feed source and storage and our processing plan. We met about 3 weeks ago. We met with Mr. Leonhardt, the agriculture commissioner, and talked about processing. He's took the time to sit with us for an hour and talk about this. So we're excited to have his involvement in there. But we have to figure out what that plan is going to look like. Excuse me. So I'll share with you here briefly the video.
For the first 3 weeks of their life.
Excuse me, I hate to cough in somebody's ear there. But this was when we were at Joel Salatin's farm. This was this summer.
And you
can see behind here, I'm talking over this lady. She's kind of just explaining what's going on. But these are the chicken tractors.
fresh air
That's an
and
example of
sunshine,
all of
bugs,
those.
and
All those
grass,
pens have
but
chickens in them,
protected
and
both
they're
from
advanced each
predators
day. They move
and
forward just one
weather.
length of the tractor,
The next
and that
top
allows them
5
to have
Canadian
access to that
livestock.
fresh grass. And there's a lot of different ways that those can be built. There's a lot of different ways those could be utilized, but that's the concept. That is the core behind pastured poultry. And that also, one of the benefits of that, of course, it brings a premium in resale. So you can get away with charging $4 to $5 a pound for a whole bird. So that helps financially. But obviously, the fact that the chicken is raised outside on grass, it gets access to grass, to bugs. Chicken's an omnivore, so it eats all of these different things. Enriched in beta carotene, higher protein, higher vitamins, all those type of things, all the benefits that come from that. So again, feeding that to people in the program is going to help with their healing process. So we really like that concept. And you can see it's not a huge investment in infrastructure. If we were going traditional in how we would raise chickens, then we'd need these huge buildings that are hundreds of thousands of dollars and have all this equipment. And that's just not what's going to fit our model and not the direction we would like to go. So this is going to be less of an input of expense, a little more input of labor in that situation.
So Troy, in those chicken tractors, 10 by 12 by 2 foot high, I believe they were. Each one of those tractors holds, was it 75 chickens?
Yes, 72 actually.
72 chickens. What a great opportunity it's really cool. The things that I learned at Salatin's place, you're not necessarily, you're also feeding the chickens, but also you're replenishing the ground at the same time. I thought that was really, really neat.
Yeah, and that comes back to the whole sustainable concept. South Park land, which we know up on behind Union Mission, on top of that ridge, has probably a 1/4 inch of topsoil.
Yeah.
It's really sparse. It does grow grass. It does have a little clover on it, so it has something that chickens are going to eat. But the really neat thing that we're going to see as we advance those chicken tractors, that grass is going to be fertilized from all that chicken manure. And as we do this over time, and I've seen it on my own farm, I've improved ground quality and soil quality just in the past 2 years. You see the grass is greener, it's growing thicker. There's a nice diversity in the actual species of plant that are growing in there. It's not like a monoculture of all certain type of grass. There's probably 7 or 8 different species growing in there. And I won't get deep in the weeds on that. Pardon the pun. Did it again. But it's going to improve the land as it's also producing protein for us. So it's really neat to say, okay, at the end of this growth cycle in 2018, we have X amount of protein that we're able to feed out to people, but we also have improved soil on top of that mountain. So each time we come back around, we're just improving and improving. And that is the concept behind sustainable agriculture. So when we look at pastured poultry, we talked about that. The next would be pastured pork. And that's kind of where my background is. I've raised hogs for a while now in a pastured setting. And right now we need a location to pasture them. So we're looking at an opportunity to people that maybe have some old pasture that's overgrown. If you've got a really nice pristine cow pasture, you don't want to put pigs on that because they're going to tear it up pretty good. But using rotational processes, if you've got woodlot, you've got land that's overgrown, has a lot of brush or areas that you'd like to clear out, a pig is an amazing land clearer. And I call them the frontiersmen on my property as we try to make new pasture. Our farm's been overgrown for years. As we try to make new pasture, then I put the pigs in front and they go through and they root out multiflora rose and poison ivy and ironweed and all this type of stuff. And they eat it all up and they get big and fat off of that. And then I can come back and say, well, this is cleared enough. I can put in some, start reseeding with grass and keep the pigs off of that and just keep moving them up the valley. So we're looking for people that maybe have some land that's rough. And the neat thing about pigs is they don't need a lot of fence infrastructure. I use a single strand of electric fence, keeps them contained. I have them fenced in a little over 5 acres of land right now. And it's just one strand of electric fence around the pasture, about 8 to 10 inches off the ground. It blows people's minds when they come out and say, how do you keep a 700-pound sow behind that little tiny fence? Well, pigs aren't known to be, they're not hurdlers, they're not high jumpers, so it pretty much keeps them in check. So when we talk about pastured pork, this is Joel Salatin's setup here. This is called the savanna process. This is like a little bit of pasture, a little bit of trees. So you can see how the pigs have started to clear out a lot of this underbrush. And so they rotate them through to reduce the pressure. And this is my farm. So these are my pigs on a pasture area. This part had grown up, and they would spend the summer eating this down. You can see this time of year, this is a fall. So yeah, they're in the process of eating this down. And I move them off of that this time of year. I don't have any pigs on that specific pasture, so it has opportunity to rest during the wintertime. So the pastured pork is really a neat opportunity to produce a lot of protein without a lot of expense and infrastructure. Again, you don't need a barn for a pig. You don't need a lot of expensive fencing. You don't need a lot of expensive equipment to feed them. They're good foragers. They like to look around and eat a bunch of stuff. So they'll even eat roots of saplings and small trees. It's pretty handy to have. And of course, grass-fed beef. We need locations to pasture them as well as the necessary infrastructure. Now, we've had experience. We've got people that have partnered with Union Mission for a while now and have been raising beef for us already. And we love that. We love those partners. We love the relationship we have with them. And we just like to find more of those opportunities there. So this one family in particular, in fact, I think Richard's on here. Hey, Richard. Richard is a great guy, and he's very gracious. He has a herd of cattle that if we bring him a couple head, he'll just fold them right in with his herd. And they hang out with his cows and get to be cows. And then when it's time to go to freezer camp, then he takes care of that for us as well. So it's awesome to see all this ground beef and this great stuff come in that we know Richard and his wife Suzanne have worked really hard to take care of and tend. And they're gracious to do that for us and let us have that protein to come back in and again feed out at Union Mission. So again, that's just from the pork or from the protein side. As we look at vegetables, as we look at perennials, as we look at fruit trees, as we look at honey and as we talked about maple syrup, there's just so many things that we don't want to say, well, we're not going to do that. We're only going to do this, because as people keep coming to us and saying, hey, I'm really good at this, or I've done this all along. Have you ever considered that? Yes, we would love to consider that if you want to come on board and help us out with that. We've had several people stop us talking about, hey, we've been raising bees. We do honey production. We really like to help Union Mission get off the ground with honey production, and that would be great.
Absolutely. So it was really cool the night that we did this presentation at the LaBelle Theater. We actually had professional gardeners and dietitians in the audience that were listening. And afterwards, they approached Troy and I, and they were trying to explain to us all the ways in which they wanted to get involved and how exciting it was for them. And the professional gardeners were saying, hey, we've got to give so many hours of volunteer work anyway, and we'd love to do that with Union Mission. So it was really exciting to see that. So this is kind of our call to you, because as we were saying at the beginning of the slideshow, is that even though we are experiencing a lack of food that is coming into our warehouse, we are not experiencing the lack of mouths to feed. We still have a great responsibility to help, to minister to help, and to provide good food to the folks here in West Virginia. And so we need, quite frankly, we need your help. We have got to have your help. We are certainly not professionals at this by any stretch of the imagination. We need all the help we can get. The questions that we have for you is, what is your experience at? What are the things that you bring to the table? What are the things that we can set down with you? You can sit down with us and say, hey, I've got this part of agriculture I know a little bit about, and I'd really, really like to get involved with you guys on this. Do you have business contacts that you can help us get the word out for supplies and equipment that we may need? If you've got those relationships already built, it would be awesome if you could kind of transfer or be the middleman for us, if you would, and allow us to begin building the relationship with those contacts. One thing that we have built over the years is a huge volunteer base at Union Mission. And I don't think we could ever get completed the things that we do without our volunteers. I think it would be the amount of volunteer hours is absolutely staggering. And we certainly appreciate that. But we ask you, the folks that are listening in, how much volunteer time do you have, and how much are you willing to give to us in this agriculture program? We need the time. We've got to have the help when it comes to getting the labor done. Do you have funds to help us pay for feed and other supplies? So like I said, we certainly don't have the means to hit the ground running tomorrow in this agriculture program, not necessarily. So we need all the help that we can get financially and volunteer base and equipment and relationships. And I know you're listening in tonight, so you automatically have a desire to see this program grow and supply our West Virginians with good quality food. So if you possess that, we are so excited that you're with us, and we are certainly asking and needing your help in this sustainable agriculture program.
Absolutely. Well, at this point, we'd like to open this up to questions. And again, since we have the amount of people we have online here, if you've got a question, you've got a comment, please just feel free to type. You can use the chat. You can use the Q&A there, and we'll try to answer questions as they come in. I've got one coming in here. I'm just going to read it out loud. So this says Troy. Derek here again. So Derek's been on listening here. I have completed 2 PDCs and a lot of environmental experience and countless hours of research. I'm all in. Do you need or desire permaculture design work, or someone to share these ideas with? And Derek, let me make sure. Yeah, okay. I've got Derek's business card sitting right here on my desk. Derek, you and I talked at church. Brother, I love exactly what you've got going on here. Love the fact that you've got PDCs. Absolutely. Permaculture, I think, is going to be, if it's not the dead center of the target, it's off by a centimeter of what we want to do, because permaculture is what's really going to help us with this raw land. Yeah. There's no way we can afford to do improvements in a traditional commercial ag process of this land, that we have to embrace permaculture methods. We have to look at those elements. So brother, we'd love to have you every spare minute you've got. So yeah, we're definitely going to put you on our list and be able to ping that. And yeah, can't wait to pick your brain about what you got PDC going on. So awesome. All right, let me look here and see what else. Anybody else have any questions there? Any comments want us to cover? I know we had some more people join near the end there. So if you obviously maybe missed some stuff, we are recording this, so we will make this available through our website, so people can come back and watch it. And again, we're going to do the exact same presentation on Thursday at 6 o'clock. So if you know somebody that you participated in this tonight, and you're like, oh, I wish so-and-so would have heard this, then please spread the word. Send them the link to Thursday's event, or send them the link as we get it live to this recording. Everybody that has signed up for these seminars or these webinars, I have your email address. So what I'm going to do, if it's okay with everyone, I'm going to put you on our email list so we can communicate. Melissa says, great ideas. Thank you. Thank you for Melissa for taking the time to join us and listen tonight. I know that
that means a lot.
Yes, absolutely. It does. So we're going to have you on our email list. And so just watch out for emails from Union Mission. This email that you'll get will be specific to our sustainable agriculture program. Now, you may be already on our email list and you're getting stuff about what all's going on Union Mission, but we're going to put you on a list that's just for agriculture. So we're going to communicate with you specifically about this area. Because as we mentioned, the next several months are really going to determine how fast we can come out of the gate. I mean, Jason and I would love to place an order in February for hundreds and hundreds of chickens to be able to raise up there on South Park. But we need the chicken tractors. We need the brooder. We need to figure out a way to do our rain catchment up there. There's a lot of pieces we need to get in play. So again, if you have those opportunities, you know how to swing a hammer, you know how to write a check, you know how to do whatever, we would appreciate your involvement there. We had one gentleman that sent us a response to our first newsletter we sent out about this in September. I don't know if you remember seeing that one, Jason, but he had written that I'm 84 years old and have always had a garden for the past 50, 60 years. He said, if I was 20 years younger, I'd be there with my hoe in hand, but I can't do that. But here's X amount of dollars. And this great saint, he promised to give as much money as he could quarterly to this program because he loves what we're doing. And that's that's the kind of stuff that really gets you motivated and want to get you going in this. Any other questions? Anybody have anything else? We'd wanted to wrap up at 10 o'clock because after that, Jason says,
I start to lose at just about everything. It's my bedtime.
Yeah, he's actually starting to go down here. I'm glad we don't have the camera on.
Not funny, Troy.
Yeah, that's not true. Alrighty, well,
if you don't mind, let me just thank you guys as the president and CEO of Union Mission. Thank you all so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us discussing this, and thank you for listening about our ideas. Thank you so much for your comments, and thank you so much for your willingness to be a part of Union Mission. It means more to me than our staff than you can even imagine. God bless you all. Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you. I'm very excited about that, and look forward to meeting every single one of you. Thank you so much again, and we are. I'm really pumped about this. Every time we spend some time with folks, every time we meet about this, every time we have another webinar or another speaking engagement over this, I get more and more excited and about this. And I just can't wait to see what God has in store for this agriculture program, Troy.
Absolutely. I agree. It's exciting. Like I said, every conversation is just another arrow in the quiver of this endeavor. And I'd like to challenge everyone, obviously next week's Thanksgiving, and we're all going to be getting together with family. It's a time of giving thanks. And we just ask that you put Union Mission in your prayers, Union Mission as a whole, but this program as well. Obviously, we love God to bless this, to bless our harvest, to bless our endeavor, to bless our partnerships. So I pray that you just, or ask that you keep us in your prayers. And so the next step would be just look for emails coming from us, and we'll give you updates. I've got another question coming in here. Archer's comment again, Melissa, thank you so much for your involvement and your desire. She says, I'll be volunteering your desire. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Melissa.
So the next step will be just keep an eye out for the emails coming. If you said in that presentation, Jason and Troy, there's one thing there that really struck a nerve with me, I'd really like to help in that area, then feel free to reach out to us. You can respond to any emails. You can call Union Mission directly and ask to speak to Jason. We'll have communication conduits on the website where you can use contact forms. So there's all kinds of different ways to communicate there, and we'll make sure we have those in place. Anything in closing? You good?
No, thanks again. And you guys have a wonderful night. God bless.
Well, good night, everybody. Take care.